morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and thank you for being here with us today. My name is N.Gard, and I represent the plaintiff in this case, Jack Gitlin. This case is about an injury to my client that we are bringing against Lane Realty Associates, the employer of the man who attacked Mr. Gitlin. The reason we're bringing this case against Lane Realty Associates is because it's a vicarious liability case. Now, Mr. Gitlin was brutally attacked by Kevin Atkinson when Mr. Gitlin drove into the parking lot attached to Lane Realty Associates and accidentally parked in the wrong space. But more importantly, and as the evidence will show, Lane Realty Associates knew Kevin Atkinson was a ticking time bomb, ready to erupt at any time. And Mr. Gitlin, he just happened to be the unfortunate person who Kevin Atkinson erupted on. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my client is seeking to recover from Lane Realty Associates for his extensive injuries due to their negligence in hiring Mr. Atkinson and then continuing to employ him. This is a vicarious liability case, which means there are three elements we must prove. First, that Kevin Atkinson is an employee of Lane Realty Associates who committed a crime. And second, that this act was committed within the scope of his employment at Lane Realty Associates. And finally, that his employer, Lane Realty Associates, knew of the employee's potential to commit this crime. By the conclusion of this trial, and after hearing all of the witnesses' testimony, the evidence will convince you, by a preponderance of the evidence, that Lane Realty Associates was negligent in hiring Kevin Atkinson and continuing to employ Kevin Atkinson, and allowed him to work in an environment that was frequented by others as a somewhat security guard, handyman, parking lot attendant. Now, on April 27, 2012, the day of this incident, Mr. Gitlin drove into the parking lot shared by Lane Realty Associates and a Mazda car dealership with the intention of trading in his car at the Mazda car dealership. Mr. Gitlin parked in an unmarked parking space that was shared in the lot by Mazda and Lane Realty Associates. But immediately after parking his car, Kevin Atkinson, the employee of Lane Realty Associates, ran up to Mr. Gitlin's car, and while Mr. Gitlin remained in his vehicle, Kevin Atkinson told him he could not park his vehicle where he did. Now, Mr. Gitlin expressed confusion to Kevin Atkinson as to why he could not park in the specific space, as it was unmarked and within the parking lot. And without a reasonable response, and completely unprovoked by Mr. Gitlin, Kevin Atkinson reached into Mr. Gitlin's car and punched him over and over and over and over again until he broke his nose. Now, this entire time, Mr. Gitlin is still sitting in his car with his seatbelt fastened. There is no way for him to defend himself or get away. Now, after beating up Mr. Gitlin, Kevin Atkinson fled the parking lot in his own vehicle. As a result of this brutal attack, Mr. Gitlin sustained serious injuries, including nervous shock, nasal deformity, mental anguish, swelling of the face, 2 black eyes, multiple contusions all over his face, and now he suffers from a severe lack of smell, the sense which once made him an elite marketing professional at his job. The evidence will show that about September 2012, 7 months prior to the instant altercation, Lane Realty Associates hired Kevin Atkinson, and to this day still employ Kevin Atkinson, a man with a previous criminal record. The evidence will show that Lane Realty Associates knew of Kevin Atkinson's aggressive episodes. You will hear from Kevin Atkinson himself, who will tell you that he partook in several altercations with other patrons. You will also hear testimony from Josie Singleton. She's one of the co-owners of Lane Realty Associates. She will tell you how she herself reprimanded Kevin Atkinson for partaking in a verbal altercation with patrons. She also notes that on 2 separate occasions, before Kevin Atkinson beat up Mr. Gitlin, he was an aggressor in other altercations at work. Additionally, and as part of the plaintiff's case, you will hear from two separate employees of the Mazda car dealership, both who testify to seeing Kevin Atkinson spend a great deal of the workday out in the parking lot and around Lane Realty Associates. These people also heard of many of the altercations that Kevin Atkinson participated in with other patrons, not Mr. Gitlin himself. The evidence will show that Kevin Atkinson had a propensity for violence and that Lane Realty Associates had previous knowledge of his violent tendencies